I'm gonna share. Okay. Sorry, I'm a bit sick. Good morning, everybody. Thank you. Welcome. Good morning to our team here at Ollaa. Good morning, T from ATF. Hopefully, you'll join us tonight too. It's been a while, actually. I haven't been on Facebook. And today is the Giving Tuesday. So the way we're gonna do this is, well, first of all, there are some of our team member who couldn't make it this morning. Some of them will do video. Some of them will try to join us in the evening. But anyway, so right now it's just be us, and the way we're gonna do is quickly we're just gonna do round of introduction about who we are, what we do in our community, especially if you're, in the case of T, and then also, feel free to for Teresa and Alyssa to also talk a little bit about it, and then sorry, not a good day to be on live. So after that, we'll, Teresa, tell us a little bit about, what today is, what Giving Tuesday, and then we'll come back and talk about what we do on Ollaa. The goal is today is a Giving Tuesday, and that is usually we do have this Facebook Live to talk with the, why people should support what we do, and later on, I want us to talk about obviously the challenge, the opportunity, this is kind of set up is like how long, be working with us. The challenge, especially for the case of Teresa and Lisa, Turkey working with the international community, uh, as representing the Oromo, basically, writing these cases, how long it takes to, finding data in Oromo. It is one of the most difficult thing. So that is how we're gonna go forward. Are we cool? Are we on the same page, right? Okay. So my name is Sena Jamjamo. I'm the director, and been with Ollaa for since its founding. And I'm really honored to be here with all of you guys. And I think we know each other for the latest one is over a year. Everybody's older than 1 year, some few years, some 2 years. So I'm really pleased to be here and welcome you guys. And the work I do mainly, I do two sides. One, working with the international community, just meeting, attending meeting, kind of talking about what the Oromo plight is. And I think Teresa and Alyssa and your team sometimes can vouch for us, is that a lot of places that we go, people don't really know who the Oromos are, and the human rights violation or the atrocity that's going on in Oromia, and it's been going on for some times. On the other side, I work very closely with the Oromo community. Obviously, Ollaa is an umbrella organization representing the Oromo community. We are majority funded by the Oromo community, so we are responsible. We answer to the Oromo communities, and in fact, we just had a meeting 2 days ago about sort of 15 or 16 Oromo community came from across the North America to talk about, the atrocity that's going on. What can we do? So those are the two angles that I cover. Whoever want to go next, unless you want me to call your name, I think we can go to the left. Start. Whoever unmute you themselves first, I'll go.
Sure, I'm happy to go next. Hi, everyone. My name is Alyssa. I manage the advocacy department at Ollaa. I've been here for just over a year now, and throughout that time, I've really loved working with the Oromo community and helping to raise awareness of the plight of the Oromo throughout the world. As manager of the advocacy department, I oversee our advocacy across all areas, including within the African system, Australia, the US, and the UN. I also personally lead the UN and US advocacy work that we do. So excited to be here and speak with you all today.
Yes, thank you so much. I think Alyssa, just I think I'll do a little bit of addition to like have some very rich background. I think that's what really enables us. Your previous work with the UN and different organization, and then also for the coming to the Oromo community, attending some of the meeting and the challenge which we'll discuss later on. Yes, also really, really happy to have you. You know, legal background have been very helpful for us because a lot of time this legal language was difficult. I mean, we could not have done a lot of the thing that we've done. So I'm very thankful. Uh, Whoever want to go next.
I guess I can go next. My name's Teresa, and I've been with Ollaa for about 2 years now, first as a volunteer with the advocacy team, and then as a staff member for about a year as well. And I wear a few different hats. I'm from Australia, so I also help out with advocacy on the Australian side of things. And I've also done quite a lot of work on the refugee angle, so for the Oromos that are in Yemen and in Kenya in particular. And then I also have been managing the communications department for the last couple of months. So been running this Giving Tuesday campaign, and very happy to be chatting to you all today.
Yes, I think I would also say a lot that Teresa, I think the way we actually met is, I think you were with us for about 8 months or something like that, or about a year, and editing behind a lot of our data that was coming in from 2020. And believe it or not, actually, like over 2 years ago, we were editing behind the scene because a lot of the data that we were getting from the 2020 was this huge, you know, killing, destruction, and then but to contextualize that, you know, and saying what kind of violation was happening, and then right now, of course, covering. I think the not Australia, yeah, Australia community. We attended together over there, and the Australia community, the leaders from the community, you met them, and running now the communication department. Everybody here wears like so many different hats, and I don't think you've met our U.S. Community, but I think that you work very closely with the Australian community. I think they've been very, very pleased in having you, and obviously we are thrilled to have you. Thank you so much. Oh my God, who's last?
Yeah, yeah, left me for last. Good morning, everybody. It's really a privilege to be on the same life code with three intelligent young ladies. It's a privilege for me. I look forward to having our discussion. I'm Tisho. Some of you might already know me. I'm really immersed in the Northern California Oromo community, where I'm involved with any and almost all activities that I can get my hands on pertaining to Oromo. And then with Ollaa, I've served in Ollaa in many capacities. Currently, the ATF or Advocacy Task Force advisor slash I don't even know my title anymore, but
I got you.
whatever I can, I'll try to do whatever I can. Today, I'm usually an early bird. Come to the office early, get to work out, and then get to work. Today, I'm a little bit absent-minded. I came with my gym clothes. I didn't bring my clothes or my machine or anything, so it looks like I'm ready for the day. It's good to be here, and look forward to our discussion.
Sorry, I got you covered. See, I think it's like long time from 2020. I think long even 2019 with the use and years, decade before that. We're not gonna go decade before that. Also, when we started initially to do the community initiative where we're gonna document the data in diaspora. It's not just even the atrocities, but even the how many Oromos doctors do we have in given state, in the nurses and teachers and so on. And so we work on that. From there, you work on the community, you wear so many hats, and obviously right now, and in addition to yours, your own Northern California community. Tonight, we're gonna to hopefully talk with the rest of the team this evening to cover. So again, I apologize. Today's, not feeling I'm a little bit under the weather. I think I'll be fine, but I think it's really today. I think we're here today in a very difficult situation. One, because there's atrocity or there's mass casualty mass killing, that drones being used by government in Oromia. The international community is not raising any alarm. They're not saying anything. There's frustration, disappointment from the community. On the other hand, there's also, it's a given Tuesday, and for years we've been doing this, and at least in the US, everybody know what Giving Tuesday. What can you do? What can you, the audience, do to really empower your voice, empower us, so we can empower you? Maybe we can talk a little bit about Giving Tuesday, and I think especially you being on the meeting from Sunday, where we have a lot of community leaders that came together. The frustration, we'll talk about it, but at the same time, we really also have to support the cause, those people who are trying to be voice. So let me hand over to Teresa to talk a little bit about Giving Tuesday, and then I think we'll talk about our work.
Yeah, so Giving Tuesday, it's really just a global generosity movement. It was born in the United States out of Thanksgiving. And so this idea of giving back to the community, and it became a day where nonprofit organizations in particular were able to fundraise together and kind of support each other to fundraise, especially as most organizations, and Ollaa is definitely an organization that is almost entirely reliant on the community for funding, but also to really try and raise awareness of what's going on for the community. So, the Oromo right now are going through a really difficult time. And one of the key things we wanted to do this year in creating this kind of Voice of Oromo campaign is to talk about that, how we can and how we need to empower Oromo voices in the international community, and how we as an organization can maximize what we do. And, the only way that we can do that is if we have enough resources to do so. And so that's why, today we're kind of giving that call to the community, but really wanting to listen to you and to listen to how, we can be the best. We can be the best kind of organization to uplift your voices, to make sure that, the international community knows what's going on in Oromia, and not just what's going on in certain parts of Ethiopia. And so I think we want to really link those two things today. And yeah, that's basically kind of what we're here to do.
Thank you. I think maybe you can even add a little bit more in terms of, like, usually Facebook used to match your donation, and they stopped doing that for some fraudulent issue. So instead of that, what we did is we actually go ahead and talk a little bit about that.
Yes, no, that's right. So normally there's a matching process that goes on. So Facebook, for instance, will match the donations that we receive on Giving Tuesday, so today. But this year, they've changed the way they do that, and they're not really doing that matching anymore. So that's made it a little bit more difficult, I would say, for us. But it's why we're using just the normal donate page on our site, so ollaa.org/donate. And so if you do want to help support us, doesn't matter how much it is, that's kind of where we're going. But yeah, it's getting more difficult, I think. It's, as soon as somebody does something to kind of exploit a process, it can make it difficult for everybody else, but we still try to do what we can.
Yeah, so we just shared, I think, where you can just click to donate. Today's Giving Tuesday. They're not matching, but at least, still Giving Tuesday. And if you believe our work is making difference, we'll talk about a little bit our work. The money in this meeting we sit on given week, whether it's from the UN or whether it is the US government, and, last year, especially with Europe, and the year before with Canadian government and the Australian, parliament, the kind of work that takes to write a single letter, and, that how long it takes, and to continue really being persistent, and to really do continue, not just do things once and you go home and you hope something will happen. But I think I want us to talk about it in the next phase of our discussion. For our viewers, we have thousands of people on our mailing list. which have been getting campaign for the last 4 weeks, so at least 3 or 4 weeks. You've been getting campaign donation. We've been getting update, or with the everybody UN Commission is doing investigation. We play a significant role in there. US is obviously doing also some data information collection. We have shared the details of that on our website. We work closely with the different agency within within the US, and recently at the African Commission and all of that. And I think we have a two type of audience. We are live Facebook Live, which Facebook is predominantly Oromos, and I understand that, but we do also have staffers from Congress office, which we meet with most of the time, do watch this, and especially this program being in English. So they're not probably the donors that we're looking for, but at least it's to know for our people. I'm hoping people like sorry, a lot of women that support this, and we'll talk about it this evening in English in Afano Romo. So right now, I think we could talk about the work we do, and T sitting on the other side, on two sides, I guess, especially sitting on with the Oromo community, and what do they think of our work, and we could talk about it also sitting on the ATF board, the challenge, the opportunity for Tristan and Lisa, and also the challenge of coming up with the data information when it comes to Oromos. Like really, I mean, the information, how difficult it is to find any credible information, and a lot of time we end up even becoming like the first source, the main source, or the first one to say things. And we're trying to walk, fine line to make sure that we are not amplifying propaganda, but at the same time, we're also not neglecting or ignoring truths, what's happening. T, you'll be my next first victim, and then I'll go to Alyssa.
No, yeah. Before I answer the question you asked, I would like to add to what Teresa said about. Hope I'm saying your name right. Giving today for me how I view it. Right. It for me. It signals the end of the year. It signals where organizations, especially nonprofit organizations, can start looking back and see out of the goals they set for that year, in this case for 2022, what are the last pushes that we can make to make to reach our goal, and what are the resources that we need to do that. And then also it will encourage organizations to set the goal for next year, and then maybe start thinking about resource allocation for next year, and give you that head start in starting planning for the next year, in this case, which is 2023. And then for individuals, I think if you haven't donated yet to any cause or any nonprofit organization, I think this is your chance for this, your contribution, your social responsibility for this year, to contribute to a nonprofit organization of your liking, your choice. And we hope that especially not just Oromos, but people who are standing in solidarity with the Oromo people, and this very difficult time is difficult because of a plethora of reasons. It's an open secret now that the Oromo people in Ethiopia are currently suffering because of various things, including food shortages and drone attacks and conflicts, intercommunal violence. The list goes on and on. And Ollaa is trying to give voices to some of those voices that are not in the open or not talked about. And hopefully the work that Ollaa has been doing at least caught your attention, and Ollaa has become your favorite organization that you want to donate to. And my hope is, saying, really, as people are watching this, I hope everybody's clicking on the link that you talked about. Click it and start donating right now. And by the end of our program, we hope to raise significant amount of funds and report it to you how much we raised just during this program. So I encourage you right now to go ahead and start your donations while this program is going. As you talked about, Sena, going back to what you asked, community is frustrated. All communities, Oromo communities around the U.S., maybe around the world, frustrated for many reasons. One is, people with trauma. You can't underestimate the stress that people are going through on a daily basis because of the news they're hearing from their hometowns, from their villages, from their people, from their family. Already that by itself on itself is a big source of stress. I can speak for myself. There is not a day that goes by without thinking about, I could have been one of those people right now, um, uh, under those circumstances. Just thinking about that. So I'm not surprised that communities are frustrated. And we're also frustrated because our voices, the voices that are coming out of Oromia, are either tainted or they're not heard. There's a lot of propaganda, like Sena alluded to. We have to be very vigilant in when we report atrocities that are happening. We have to vet them. We have to look into it, look at for eyewitness accounts. We have to differentiate the real ones from the fake ones, because there are people out there trying to confuse, corrupt. I mean, they have the three C's or whatever they call them: confuse, corrupt. I forgot the rest of them, but really to muddy the water so that people will not understand the gravity of the atrocities that are happening. And before I give it back to Sena, there's a lot I could say. Really, uh, I appreciate people like Alyssa and Teresa for immersing themselves in this situation and understanding the plight that the Ormos in. And they kind of, the amplification of our voices are enhanced by having people that are non-Oromos hearing us and then spreading uh, the voices to their own networks and circles, and that means a lot. Not just their energies, their expertise, but also their empathy, that the understanding of what we're going through. Um, I would like to take this opportunity to publicly thank people like you that are here on the call today, and I think somebody else joined too. I don't know, maybe it's Beef too. But that's what I want to say right now. Saying there's a lot to be said.
Thank you, team. And Beef 2 is part of the Europe team. We're expecting one more. They are part of the Oromo segment. Beef 2, we're gonna kind of mix, Afan Oromo. Afan Oromo injal qabnee jenna or baadde nagaa jedhi.
Hi. Hello, everybody.
Okay.
So I am Bifto. Introduce myself. I am from Paris, but I am so sorry speaking French, but not really good in English. So I understand, but when I talk, it's not easy for me.
No,
you can greet us in French. You can greet
French.
us in French.
I know. We need to break it down with French. I think 1 ago now. So we'll do this is in about maybe 10 minutes when that will have more of an Oromo when Darja will also be joined about 5 minutes, and then this is we kind of merge it. We say 10 o'clock for you guys, but we started a little bit late. Some people couldn't join. Kind of you and we'll start the rakon kabutai je kind of.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, welcome. Thank you for joining us. But I want to comment on some of what T said before I kind of gave it back, and I want to also to hear from people, both Teresa and Alyssa. But Teresa, in a given time, 5 to 6 volunteers under you. The same thing with Alyssa. Quite a bit of volunteers under each of you guys, and everybody in the organization have a volunteer we work on. A lot of our work actually relies on the volunteers. From the data from back home, the Oromo volunteers, we can't really show Oromo staffs from the ground as well as volunteers because of security. You know what I'm saying? And these people who are here are the people are feel confident or comfortable. They're not going to be at within the reach of the government if the government decide to retaliate and to take action. And it did happen in the past. Our staff, our volunteers did get arrested. So we try to be cautious. So what I would say before I maybe Alyssa will take after T is, so T comes from the Oromo community frustration. And Alyssa, whom have been immersed and became like really expert, comes from the legal background, have experience with the UN. You know how hard it is to move the UN, but now we have this opportunity to work with the UN Commission, with the Special Rapporteur, with the different agency within. How is it? And what I think everybody knows. To me, is people know the small amount of information we put on our page. That is small, but the letter that gets written all the time to endless Congress, different agency. Maybe let's say can take from that angle. Talk about that.
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to talk about that. Maybe I'll start first with just a general, what we do as advocacy, how we try to influence things, and then take it from that angle. And then Teresa, maybe you can jump in about some of the work we've done in Australia and refugees, just so we get a full picture of the work we do. Yeah, so just to start, what we try to do at Ollaa is to raise global awareness to the plight of the Oromo, to seek justice for human rights violations that have been perpetrated against them, and to address the currently dire humanitarian situation throughout Oromia. So we do this namely through two different angles, one of which you see and one of which generally the Oromo community will not be able to see because it's more private in nature. The first is we issue public-facing reports on the human rights and humanitarian situation facing the Oromo. And these are, again, designed to raise awareness throughout the international community of what is happening to the Oromo. As we know, the Oromo have experienced countless abuses for generations, and yet they've had a really hard time raising international attention to this. And part of that reason is because the world at large isn't aware of what is happening. So part of the reason we do this public-facing reporting is to help raise that global awareness, which will in turn help put pressure on governments, other key stakeholders have ability to make concrete changes and press the Ethiopian government to make changes to do so. So that's the first part of the advocacy work that we do. The second part is, as Sana mentioned, a bit more behind the scenes, and that is where we as Ollaa and our staff work directly with key stakeholders throughout the world, namely in the US, Australia, within the African regional human rights system, and at the UN, although there are others as well, to encourage them to be aware of the situation facing the Oromo, and then to take action in response to human rights abuses, as well as to ensure that humanitarian aid is provided to Oromia and actually reaches those who are most in need. So just to give you a brief introduction to what we do on that side, the second side of our advocacy work. At the US, a lot of what we do is interfacing directly with staffers for various members of Congress, as well as with key actors at the US State Department and at the White House on issues relevant to the Oromo. So, for instance, people at the State Department, USCIRF, which is the US Commission on International Religious Freedom, USAID on issues related to humanitarian aid and access, to raise their awareness to what's happening and call for them to press for concrete changes. So one of the major things that we did this past year in the US was working with members of Congress on the development of two bills that are introduced on the situation in Ethiopia. So when we received the early drafts of these, we found that they were largely focused on the situation in the north and couldn't be applied broadly across the country, and especially for issues relevant to the Oromo. So we worked with staffers to propose amendments to the bills that ended up having a much stronger and broader focus. Ideally, we would love to see some sort of resolution or bill specifically related to the Oromo passed at some point in time. But realistically, at least at this point, it's about working with what we have and making these things better. And I will say that, the bills that we got in the end of the day, although at this point, it's looking a little late for them to pass, but anything is possible, are a lot stronger and can be applied broadly across the country to do things that will encourage the Ethiopian government to respect human rights. We also have developed some really close relationships with several senators and representatives' offices, leading to them issuing public statements about the situation for the Oromo, writing letters that we drafted and help them with text of to various bodies on these issues to further press for concrete changes. The other major area where we've really developed our efforts in the past year is at the UN. As Sana noted, I am a lawyer by training with a focus on human rights law. And prior to my work at Ollaa, I worked at a number of organizations where we primarily did UN advocacy. So in the past year that I've been here, we've been able to really increase our work at the UN, namely through our work with the UN Special Rapporteurs, which are independent experts who are associated with the UN, who are expected to report on and examine questions related to thematic human rights issues. So, for instance, freedom of expression, freedom of association, those kinds of things. So making submissions to them on various issues relevant to the Oromo. We've also really been fortunate in the fact that this past year, the UN Human Rights Council voted to establish a commission of inquiry known as the Independent Commission of Human Rights Experts on Ethiopia, who have the task of investigating human rights abuses committed in Ethiopia since the start of the war in northern Ethiopia. Ever since that was introduced and established, Ollaa has been working very tirelessly to make sure that this mandate of this commission, that the commissioners viewed it very broadly as applying throughout Ethiopia. Unfortunately, the resolution that did it set a pretty firm timeline of has to be since November 2020. So that means we can't have them go back beyond that point. What we could do is get them to see it as extending across Ethiopia, because what we really believe and have seen is that if there's ever to be any chance of achieving lasting peace throughout Ethiopia, you have to address the many conflicts and crises occurring throughout the country. And you won't get lasting justice if you're only looking at abuses committed against one group. And so we met with the commissioners, we wrote them letters, we drafted submissions to them, and lately we've been pushing for them to accept submissions about human rights abuses in Afan Oromo. And I will say, I think this is one of the areas where Ollaa has had the most success in the past year. I think they have been very receptive to what we have said. They've made it clear that they view their mandate as extending across Ethiopia, and that they are really interested in investigating situations in Oromia. Their report that came out just this fall, it wasn't as broad as we would have liked. It didn't cover all the things we wanted it to do. But what's really important is that report specifically mentions the need to investigate Oromia in their future reports. And that is key. And, the challenge for working out the Oromo issue, as many of you will know, and as Senna mentioned before, is that the information that we have is quite limited. A lot of news doesn't get out of Oromia about the violations that are taking place. And so it really is hard for international actors to take action whenever, they don't necessarily trust the sources of information. Someone like the UN, an independent body coming in and investigating these abuses, adds, a layer of respectability and accountability for the information has. So this, evidence itself can be used. The commission itself will make recommendations to the Ethiopian government for what to do. They can also in turn be used for further advocacy efforts by Ollaa and other groups with other governments to pressure the Ethiopian government. So that's just a quick, not so quick, briefing of what we've done there. We also recently submitted a case regarding violations against an individual at the African Commission, and we're working on other strategic litigation ways to hold the Ethiopian government more directly accountable for its human rights abuses. But I have taken up too much time, I think, so I'm going to pass on to Teresa.
She is like, go, Teresa, go, sorry.
No, that was, I think, a great update from Alyssa. And I think I would just add on to that, in particular, when we talk about the UN and the investigation that they're carrying out, that as much as possibly, we also really encourage, you guys in the community to submit human rights violations where possible, because it is so difficult to find that information and to verify that information. So if it's coming from the community, the more that the UN receives, the more information, the more cases, the more instances that they receive, the more we really build up broader knowledge, broader insight, and also more pressure on bodies like the UN and then the entire international community to really take this seriously. And I think one of the other big challenges in regards to, Oromia more broadly is it's not a clear narrative. There's so much going on. There's this intercommunal violence that's happening, but there's also drought. There's also a lack of humanitarian actors in Oromia. So there's a lack of humanitarian aid. There's a lack of data. So it's complex and it's hard, I think, for the international community, it's always going to be hard, but there's a lack of will on the part of the international community to look at it unless we really keep on pushing it in their face and saying, this is something that we have this moral imperative to respond to. So it's always going to be, us as an organization, but working with you as the community to put forward as stronger and build as stronger case as we can. And so I think, any way that we can better facilitate that is really important. And so for myself, even working with Australia and the Australian community, Australia plays a different role in the international community than the US does, say, or the UN, in the sense that Australia is maybe less of an actor that really takes charge in pushing for change and the kind of in the Ethiopian government and putting pressure in that way, but is quite a strong actor from the humanitarian angle. So, Australia provides a lot of aid and has taken quite a lot of refugees in the past. There's a big Oromo community in Australia. And so one of the things that we can do in Australia is work really closely with the community to bring to bring attention to Australian politicians, to our local politicians, and say, hey, what's happening in Oromia also affects Australia, also affects the Oromo community in Australia, and also affects how we consider ourselves to be a country that upholds human rights. So for Ollaa, we have to look at all of these different approaches as well, and how to conduct advocacy is different for Australia, for the US, for the UN. And then some of the other work that we've done is around refugees. And again, that's a bit of a different angle, where we've been trying to, and we have met with the UN Human Rights Agency in Yemen, in Kenya, and to directly kind of talk with them and talk with the Oromo refugee communities in those countries and say, hey, this is the situation that refugees are living through, which, in Yemen, in Kenya, is really difficult. There are people that have fled conflict, that have been there for, more than 20 years, and that are living in really difficult situations. And we have to keep on putting that pressure, even on UN agencies, to respond to it. Because I think one of the hard things is that for a UN agency, or for any of these agencies, they see the worst of the worst. They see so many people in really difficult situations that our job isn't just to say, hey, these people are really suffering. We have to convince them that we should be acting now for these people when there are also other people suffering. So it's difficult, because we're having to really, you have to take it one step further. It should just be, there are people suffering, they deserve help. But we have to push even more. We have to build a really strong case. We have to show them that, something really has to be done in this particular case for this particular people. And so I think this year we've been really trying really hard to do that, and to work on publishing articles, conducting interviews, meeting with people. And yeah, I think we've made some headway, but it is an upward battle. So rest assured that we are constantly working on it and constantly trying to really do as much as we can to tell these stories, and to make sure that we remember that these are human people. They're individual stories that are really strong, and they're not just numbers. They're not just cases. They're people. And yeah, that can be sometimes the biggest challenge, is to make that really, really present to the people we're talking to.
No, I'm sorry. I was just gonna ask you, I guess, people like Najat Arafat hopefully should join us in the evening because of work. The challenge you raised about the case of Yemen, I think Yemen is also another successful, outside of Ethiopia, we have a successful influence on both the UNHCR as well as the IOM, and I think these are the two main organizations, to kind of even, now they have a hotline, they have Afan Oromo, the UN is publishing Afan Oromo. There is an issue, the fact that there's a lot of refugees who want to be registered, but they are considered migrants. Because of that, that they cannot receive any kind of support or any kind of acknowledgement. And I think the other challenge is that to really get that information, it's in Afan Oromo, and to translate it, to speak to this survivor, to speak to this victim. And it is so challenging. We have about, I don't know, among all of us, maybe 35 or 40 volunteers, to which the one here in the Western is predominantly non-Oromos. So that to translate, and I think it is, oh my God, it was very, very difficult, because we have a lot of high school students who are not, hopefully they, they are our host. They wear multiple hats. They are our translator and things like that. But I don't know. I mean, how was it? Maybe just add a little bit, and then I'll give it to T, and then I think we can wrap it up.
Was that for me to talk to?
Yes, just a little bit like the challenge. How was it like? The fact that it has to be translated for you.
Yeah.
Somebody has to go between you and the victim.
Yeah, of
Like,
course, which adds another layer. But I do want to shout out to our volunteers because we have some really incredible, and often they're really young. We have these incredible high school students that are Aroma, and they give so much. They give their time to talk and interview these, refugees or women and or children sometimes, and they listen to these really really difficult stories and they transcribe them and translate them with such empathy. And there's so much. It's not an easy task to ask of anyone, I think, and at such a young age to be so articulate and to take that story and treat it with so much respect and then give it to us to then turn it into an article, which is a challenge as well. How do we do justice to these stories when there's these we're having to go from that person and their story and it's in Afan Aroma, it's in a different place, it's a different culture, a different reality, then it gets translated by a volunteer and then we take it. So yeah, it can be a really challenging process, but again, I really have to say there are some remarkable volunteers, and if anybody is wanting to give back, that is such an incredible way that you can, and such a helpful way that you can give back and really help us out.
Yeah, I'll just note on that our volunteers are amazing and wonderful. If you guys are interested in doing it, volunteers work across the entire array of the work Ollaa does, anything from admin work to writing some of our reports to graphic design. There's a really wide array of things that we can use our volunteers for. So, I think that's another thing, especially if you're unable to give funds, but really want to support the Aroma cause and help raise the voice of the Aroma. I think that's another really worthwhile thing that you guys could look for. And we're always looking for more volunteers. So, and I can speak firsthand that the volunteers really feel that their work is really impactful and get a lot out of it themselves. So, yeah.
Indeed. T, I'll give it to you after that, but I absolutely wanted to add me too. The volunteers have been really, really our voice. Go ahead, T.
Where when I hear Ollaa's accomplishments of the year, I get them piece by piece, piece by piece. Alyssa just gave me a holistic picture of what's been happening, and I'm sitting here. I'm like, wow, what a year! Wow, what an accomplishment! And thank you for articulating that very well, Alyssa. And I hope our listeners heard all of that, and hopefully, Sena, this program will be widely shared with people that are not able to attend, because really a very remarkable achievement, especially holding people accountable as far as the Ethiopian government and such. I'm distracted by Yantu. I haven't talked to her in a while. Hello, Yantu. Nice seeing you.
too.
I'll continue, but I wanted to acknowledge her presence and and say hi because I haven't talked to her in a while. And another thing that I'm impressed is, not just the grasp, but the depth of understanding of our non-Oromo colleagues here of the complex issues in Oromia. I'm sitting here and saying, wow, yeah, they understand the challenges. They have full sympathy of what we're going through, and then their expertise is pushing the needle forward. I think Teresa said it's a poor battle, but we're making headway. So I think what they did is, for me, is they highlighted the importance of institutions like Ollaa, an institution to a credible institution that any organization, whether it's an aid organization, whether it's a human rights organization, whether it's a court organization, whoever wants to conduct some sort of investigation or extend some kind of helping hand, will need an organization like Ollaa with credible information, credible sources, and people who are willing to put in the time and the work to make a fruitful change to take place on the ground. And I think that's what Ollaa has accomplished, in my opinion, is being the institution to be there as not just the middleman, but the middle person, but to also be down there willing to be part of the change, be the mediator, be the voice, be the person who or to explain the challenges to these different organizations, um, uh, and to make sure that the world knows. Alyssa said it beautifully. There is no peace in the entire body if you're focusing on just uh, to cure one side of the body. Like, if one side is affected, the whole side is affected. So you can't get peace in Ethiopia just by focusing on peace in certain area of the country. You have to holistically approach it. Peace everywhere has to be ensured to make sure that the citizens enjoy the privilege of pursuing a stable life, for the lack of a better term. But in general, I think you guys have summed it very well. You guys, the accomplishment that Ollaa did, the challenges in front of us, inspires me even more. Just even me being part of Ollaa inspires me to even more take a bigger part. Just hearing it the way you guys articulated it. And my hopefully the audience are still giving. I don't know if somebody's collecting that report. Our focus today is Giving Tuesday. Is act of generosity is amplified on this thankfulness week or season. And hopefully our audience are donating and spreading the word so that others in their circle can donate. If somebody have the data already, what has been collected just while we're having this, it would be nice to hear. If people are giving right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Before I give it to Ayu, I think Ayu is the best person to say, since we're doing only direct donation, probably to even look at it and comment on that one, because it's a little difficult. I wanted to say a few things before I pass it over.
Yeah, we don't need the numbers. Ayu, just give us, and the people are already donating.
Okay, it's gonna take Okay, hold on, Ayu, before I give you a chance, before you jump in. Yeah. I added Biff too because one of our other guests he couldn't join, so probably gonna be just us, and we're gonna wrap up. And before that, it's not really about accomplishment. I think what Alyssa did, I think she just probably took one or two key area and to really talk about it, because the work we do is humongous compared to our size, compared to the issue, Oromo issue. Oromo issue is it is so huge. We're not even, I don't know what to call it. It's like we're not even making that much of a dent. It is so huge. The atrocity in Kenya, refugee in Sudan, and in every part of East Africa, we get data, but we don't have the capacity to do anything. But today is about, honestly, if you believe on what we're doing having an impact, this discussion is about that. Is that obviously it's a Giving Tuesday, and Giving Tuesday is basically a culture that you support a cause that you believe in, that you think having an impactful. And this is just a tip of the iceberg. And a lot of the meeting that I say, Alyssa and I, or maybe Teresa and I myself will go, and sometimes by themselves, is usually we can't really talk about the details of what's being said. On that meeting, we can only possibly say what we say on our side. And I think Alyssa, both of Alyssa and Teresa say the same thing. We've had an opportunity to represent the Oromos, so that has been really, really great. And obviously, our community is very, very much grateful for the Teresa's and Alyssa's, the dozens of them, over 100, just in 20. I think we probably have about 100 volunteers in just 2022 alone. So everybody have contributed so much to this. So I'll give to you're gonna wrap up too, and everybody will have last word. You just came, she have two attacks from two domestic. I'm not gonna call them what I'm gonna call domestic. Go ahead, and thanks for being here, because it was difficult. I didn't think you're gonna make it. We got to have a discussion evening. Go ahead.
I got to at least open Facebook and see what y'all were doing. I had to jump in. I haven't seen y'all's faces in over almost a year. And what I wanted to just talk about is the fact that I was actively a part of Ollaa day in and day out as an employee, to now these two lovely human beings who have taken over my life with my two sons. And I just wanted to, the fact that I'm on the outside, I'm seeing more of the impact and the how much Ollaa goes
Don't
through.
forget the board side, are you?
Yeah, the board side too, but how much you go through on the day-to-day basis. And I think the community needs to understand that. So now what I see more of is us in the community, the average day-to-day. This is a cause that we care about. Oromo people are that's who we are. But people get burned out. We get tired. Life happens. And when you have an institution, that means that those people will work 40 hours, 80 hours to make sure that your cause exists. And it's not going to be an overnight thing. It's going to take a long time. And I think as a society, being Western, we expect immediate gratification. And that does not exist with this cause. And that's what I want to communicate during the short time that I have. We need an institution like Ollaa that works day in and day out, because people get tired. People have other stuff that they have to do. And that a small investment of $5 a month being a member, or $5 today that you could be spending on coffee at Starbucks, could make a big difference, because we have so many people, right? And that's part of the hardship. But we have so many people, and a small contribution, saying by giving your money is an exchange of value. So if you give something, that's volunteering your time. Oh, the older I get, time is important. Time and money are the two ways that you can communicate. So one way would be to volunteer, to give your time if you have a lot of it. Another way is to give your money. And I think we need to get into that spirit of the fact that we need to support. We need to put, what is it, our money where our mouth is that the word? We need to get involved in order, when we say we believe in something, it has to be more than just words. So that's me keeping it short.
No, nobody can say that more than I am to. From the beginning, from 2016 or 16 and onward, as a staff, as a board, as supervising. I mean, volunteer and doing the activity even before the Hachalus. When we really became different. So you know that, and then you also know how much it takes to produce a single thing. And when you consume it, it just seems like you guys wrote about that one-page letter, but that it took it took so much.
And it makes more of an impact too. I think that's the thing that people do not realize. Like I said, now I see it from the community side. You have one side that's saying, we're dying, drone attacks, this is happening all the time, but you're just going to protest and going home. I'm sorry. Now I'm like, I'm older, I don't care. We're protesting and we're going home. You're not doing anything. The fact that Sena and Ollaa is going out and doing the work, making those relationships, especially when it comes to all of this advocacy work, it is those relationships. Nobody knows who Oromos are. Even if you go to your school in high school, they're like, you speak Amharic? That's the first question you get asked. Nobody knows. And to build that groundwork, or what is necessary in order to get to that next point, takes a lot of work. It takes time. You're not going to see results tomorrow, but something is happening, I promise you, especially in the past 3 years. The difference, you see it. It is an impact. It's like, it's a rippling effect too. One person can't claim it. It's the fact that we worked with the community. The community, one state did more work than we could even do with on our own. So all of those little things add up. But this overnight change concept needs to stop. People need to support an institution like Ollaa. It does not exist. I've been trying to find it. There's no other institution. My kids are growing up in this country, and it's really hard having an institution that keeps your culture together and fights for you.
I will give you guys one more round, but before I'm gonna go to Beef Two, and again I'll say two things. One, I see you guys comment. We see your comments. We are condemning atrocity by all party, whether it's government and other group. Any civilian that's been targeted, we condemn them. We speak against it. We speak for everybody. We care about everybody. We are obviously Oromo-driven organization representing the Oromo voice. That is our priority, like Alyssa say. And Alyssa is a lawyer, so lawyers, they take things a little bit serious. You guys might know them. I'm like, Alyssa and I was like, we gotta put it like, no, we gotta stick to the line. We cannot. But I want everybody to get one more round. But before that, Beef Tooth, yeah, I'm so sorry. I think some of the members came from they couldn't make it. So Beef Tooth is based in France, France Dirty. She is right now our only volunteer from Europe who is on this panel. We actually met Gaf Inga de France again at Guinea today. She's a young woman who is going to university. And just for the record, there are a lot of people that I know have used Ollaa on their resume, have used Ollaa for application for scholarship, and have gotten a scholarship, have gotten university acceptance. So please continue to use that if you're volunteering for us, making a difference. And Beef Tooth is obviously one of the young person. So Beef Tooth here. Whether you do Afan Oromo, I know because French, I'm okay. Afan French, in the go and data. Just talk a little bit about what do you do, like I said, because you do one angle. Europe is one area that we have such a difficulty with. Unfortunately, our other partner from Europe couldn't make it. Me at it, talk a little bit. Beef Tooth Enyu. Malgut Ajirte Olarati, feel free to do in English, feel free to do in France, and then we'll have one round of Janet is Legend. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you. So, أنا فانا روموت نسيني تداي maybe you can learn فرنسا what you
The whole point because in with half an Afan Romo and half English for Janet. Please, Afan Romo.
Okay, so naannoo keessaroo Faransaadha. Faransaa keessatti Oromoonni baay'een jiranii hangi jiranillee immoo warra amma karaa baharaatiin dhufanii afaan Oromoo hedduu hin beekan afaan Faransaa hedduu hin baranne jechuun ani nama tokko qofa argee TV afaan Oromoo barate osoo namni kiyyaa jiraatee sagalee ta'uu dandeenye warri Faransaa sagalee namaa ni dhagahanii waa'ee mirga namummaatiif hanga tokko maal jira ni gargaaranii yookaan ni tattaafatan. Yoon fi namni tattaafatu jiraate namni sagalee ta'u jiraate hawaasa biyya keessaatiif Oromoon biyya kana jirtu jechuudha. Ni tattaafatan jedhee yaada. Garuu maybe politikaa biyya kana hagas takkas keessa hin beeku. Garuu yeroo hiriira goonee yeroo dabarree hayyama malee baatee hiriira godhuu hin dandeettu turte asitti godhuu hin dandeenyu. So mootummaan biyya kanaa dhaqnee oguu gaafannee biirooleen magaalaa adda addaa keessa jiranii hayyama nu kennaa turan Paaris keessatti. Paaris magaalaa hedduu guddoodha, hedduu turistiidha. So bakka turistiin itti dhufan akka Turifeelii yookaan bakka Baastil jedhamu tokkos jira. Bara 2021 haalaan bakka sanitti sagaleen olqa'ee ture kan Oromoo. Miidiyaan dhuftees daawwatullee jira, sagalee sarraafullee jira. Garuu harki guddaan biyya kanatti nama sagalee ofii ibsatuu danda'u jiraachuu qabaatudha jechuudha.
Okay. Ollaa irratti maal dalagda? Ollaa irratti maal godhaa jirte yeroo ammaa kana?
Okay. Ollaa irratti saayitii darajee waliin deemnee waan biyya hawaasa Oromoo keessatti yeroo ammaa ta'aa jiru keessattuu mirga namaa dhiibbaa mirga namaa adda addaa irra gaggeeffamaa jiru jechuudha. So naannoon Oromiyaa kutaa 11 hedduu bal'aadha. Kutaa 11 kana keessatti miidiyaan haala gadhiisutti haaluma wal fakkaatutti deemaa guyyaarra namni hagana du'ee namni hagana ta'ee so kana shiifii godhaa jirra. Yoonii fi guyyaa tokko sagalee argatee jechuun seenaan nu gaafate eessaa argannaa bu'uura eessaa arganna ka jedhu akshiivii godhaa jira. Arginee garuu guyyaarraa hedduu kana argannee waa takka jiru dhabuun immoo wanta akka innatti dhaga'amedha. Naannoo kutaa 11 Oromiyaa keessarraa homa tokko haasofna akka tokko jechuun asii du'ee kun ajjeefamee kun awwaalamee bakka du'ee hin beekamu kan mootummaa ajjeesee wanni baay'ee deemu naannoo Oromiyaa keessatti kanuma jechuudha. Asiin tasgabbummaa fi nageenya kan qabne garraa jechuudha.
Okay. Itti kan hin jedhu biftuun fa'aa kan darajeen fa'aa godhaa jiranii every day nama asitti du'ee OMN hin jedhaa Oromiyaa 11 hin jedhaa dhaabbileen adda addaa hin jedhaa garuu kan waggaa dabree amma jiru eessa deeme? There is no archive. So archive irra dalagaa jiran jechuu gabaabinaa fi hedduu galatoomii biftuu anoo kilaasaalee baatee jette. Thank you so much. I think one more round. I think I'll start with Teresa. We'll go to Tisho, Alyssa, and then we'll finish with Ayu since you came last. And then go ahead, please.
It's so wonderful to hear Afan Oromo. I think it's such a beautiful language, even if I do have to do a little bit more work on it myself before I can understand. But I think it's such a privilege as well to hear from Ayantu and Tishu and Sana and Biftu, because these are people that have really given so much of themselves for the Oromo cause. And I just want to say that obviously we work with our heads, working in the advocacy in the communication side, everything. But we really also carry the Oromo in our hearts. And I say that as a non-Oromo. But, we ask for your support because we really believe about this cause, and we do work day in and out and try to do everything that we can to make sure that, together we can make a difference. And it's a long journey, but, step by step, we're getting there.
T and Alice.
Yeah, all these people that you see on this show are giving themselves, their time, their energy, their expertise. They're incredible people. However, Alyssa is not going to be with Ollaa forever. Ayantu is not going to be with Ollaa forever. Sena is not going to be with Ollaa. Teresa is not. Biftu is not going to be with Ollaa forever. I think Ayantu alluded to this. Institutions are very critical because institutions are here to stay, to not only amplify the voices, but play a greater role in ensuring democracy, human rights in the future. Even in the better Oromia, institutions like Ollaa still will be playing a critical role in ensuring these various things that I just mentioned. So supporting institutions is very critical. And hopefully today you are supporting your favorite non-profit organizations. And hopefully we hope Ollaa is one of your favorite, and you'll be supporting Ollaa financially and any other means that you can think of to support Ollaa. I just, there's a lot of things to say about Oromo. Like I said, it's a big place with big complex challenges. The accomplishments are not comprehensive that we just Alyssa just described. But support our institution. Support. Thank you.
Yeah, I just really want to express my thanks to you all, the supporters of Ollaa and the work that we do here. I think it cannot be overstated how much, you guys have done on your own to raise awareness to what's happening to the Oromo. And, your continued support of us has been everything, and it's really made a difference in the minds of shareholders. And just thank you all. It's been really an honor and a privilege working with the Oromo community over the past year, and I'm looking forward to continuing to work with you.
Before Ayu jump and you can close it, Ayu, I will say also myself, I'm very, very grateful to the community, honestly, like Alyssa saying, who have enabled us, continue to donate month to month, continue to share our information, continue to receive our email list, continue to amplify us, because we could not have done it without you guys. There are hundreds of people who donate to us every month. There's also one-time donation, like now you sometimes end of the year that people donate to us. Please share use the link to donate to us, and appreciate it. Today is Giving Tuesday, that's why we're here. But we obviously are very much aware of the atrocity, the human rights violation that is happening to Oromo people, Oromo civilians in general, and that we can do so much if we don't continue to grow. Like I want to say, at the end of the day, all of us are temporary. We come and go. People, for whatever different reason, we want to build an institution that can always speak for Oromo, regardless who is in power, regardless who's in charge. Truly independent, truly a credible organization is what we're trying to do here. If you believe in it, volunteer for it, especially Oromos. And this is Facebook Live. So I say volunteer for it because we a lot of time, Alyssa relies on our staff, our volunteers to okay, what did this person say in Amharic? What does this person say in Afan Oromo? A lot of the information, as you know, is in those language. So translate it into giving it to the international community. I say 90+% of our work is not visible. Alyssa touched just the tip of the iceberg on what we do every single week. We are on the meeting, we are briefing, we are updating, we are writing letter, we are explaining. Obviously I use stuff. Right now she's on the board. Obviously she remains on our board. She remains behind the scenes, still taking care of some finance aspects. She wears still different hats. She have two soldiers now, took her away. But I'm really happy, and we're going to Ollaa's going to Atlanta in 2 weeks, to her community. I'm happy in a way to hear, looking from the outside in and hearing from the community that give us a work. Obviously, you know what it takes to get one paper out there. So we'll close it with you. Thank you.
Everybody says some great things, but the only thing I hear is my son crying in the background. So the reason I'm starting with that is the fact that we are all human beings. We get tired. Our life changes. Things change. I mean, I've been sleep deprived for 7 months. And with things like this, you need an institution. Things that are not directly one human being to keep on going. Burnout is real. And within the Oromo community, that's what I see. Kids get tired. They have other priorities. People have lives. And when that happens, you need an institution to keep on working for you, that keeps on changing, but working for you as the priority. And finding something like that, building something like that is really difficult. For anybody who, is employed, is stable, if you say that you care for your people and you don't know which way to make an impact supporting Ollaa, I can guarantee you that your money is working for you, your time is working for you and your people. It's really hard to come from where we were to continue, and we need your support to keep on continuing. So that's all I want to say. Keep it short, and hopefully more people will see this part.
Thank you. I know. Thank you, Ayu. With that, we'll conclude, and I want to thank you guys, all of you guys. We stay way longer. Bifsu Galatomi. We'll join our final room in the evening with the ATF, with T, and everybody will join this evening. Yes, and it's Giving Tuesday, and thank you, everybody.
It's been a